Yeah.
So,
I was going to ring you up and say.
Well, we thought about messaging, but then it thought it was when slushy didn't there, thought if it was still icy, it's no.
And I was just telling you on salt.
Oh, is it? Oh, right, well, any time, just let us know.
Sometimes, and it's some sleep time.
yeah.
And heavy. Leaving everyone.
What about the camper van though, what's that doing that?
We got 80 quid for it.
Oh, really?
We got 800 for it.
Oh, I was going to
Good evening. Welcome to the planning committee. As ever, we start with an open session at planning where the public can speak on any subject for 3 minutes, 3 minutes each. And I gather you're all here on the same subject, and I think there are 3 speakers, is that right? So the floor is yours.
Can I just ask initially whether we could indulge you in just explaining this plan before we actually start to, for the benefit of councillors that don't know the actual junction that we talked about? Is that okay? Won't take 30
In
seconds.
theory, we've got a total of 15 minutes.
Yeah.
So, you know, so long as we keep within the 15 minutes,
Yeah, yeah.
that's fine. We have got all of the business to get through.
Yeah, don't worry. Yeah, the plan in front of you is actually what was submitted by Optima. They're the people who actually work for Ryan Homes, but it shows the junction that I'm going to be talking about. The only access to the site that's in question is via Bankfield Drive and Lane Bank Drive, which have 1 in 5 and 1 in 6 gradients respectively. These 2 roads form part of the 5-way junction, also involving Smithy Lane and Dogtop Road. The junction has no level standing at any point. In fact, the slopes of Bankfield and Lade Bank continue across Dogtop Road into the dry stone wall on the opposite side. There are poor sight lines due to the steep gradient of Smithy Lane, and a wall on the corner of the blind bend where the carriageway narrows to a width of 4.8 metres. Not 5 metres as per their plan, by the way. Due to the widths of Dogtop, Smithy Lane and Bank Lane, those roads contain no footways whatsoever and have constant parked cars due to there being no off-road parking. They are effectively reduced to single track. I hope that sort of explains the layout of the junction before we get going, yeah. Right, the junction in question is part of a rural school route for children walking to and from Hinchcliffe Mill J&I School, Homebridge Preschool and Homebridge Outer School Club, and by children attending Home First Higher Walk, the handicap bus at the bottom. The junction should actually be classed as unsafe as per the Kirklees Highways Design Guide, Highways Guiding Notes and the NPPF. It contravenes sensible good practice guidelines in terms of gradients, no level standing, poor sight lines, main carriage widths and the lack of footways. There are a number of accidents at this junction. In wet, icy or snowy conditions, vehicles lose control on Bankfield and Lade Bank, which are never gritted incidentally, and ploughing to the wall on the other side. The repairs to the wall by the council are plain to be seen. There have also been many collisions between vehicles which have not been officially reported, as police have not been in attendance. There are at least 3 incidents at this junction every year. We know this as locals. 2 recent examples being when a tradesman's van lost control and demolished a lamppost, and a further vehicle which lost control, the driver actually bailing out before his car hit the road, as there is hit the wall on the opposite side, as there's a 40-foot sheer drop on the other side of the wall. So I emphasise he actually bailed out this guy last year. Planning permission for development of this site has been refused in the past, most recently in 1993, when it was refused first by Kirklees and later on appealed by the planning inspector, who concluded the proposed development would lead to an increased hazard for other road users and pedestrians, and the danger would be sufficient to warrant dismissal of the appeal. Since then, many new houses, and I'm sure everyone's aware, has been built in the immediate vicinity. We've got the Vineyard, Caddy's Farm, and we've got the West Yorkshire cycle route in Home Valley Riverside Way, which have come into evidence since then. Car ownership then stood at 1.1 per household. Currently on this estate there are 49 houses and 109 cars, 2.14 cars per household, twice what it was in 1993. By ratio, 21 new homes would result in a further 45 cars and potentially up to 90 additional commutes per day, not insignificant. Bankfield, the steepest of the two access roads, is used by 12 homes. Its use would therefore be tripled should the development take place. Additionally, it's worth mentioning that the dramatic increase in delivery drivers to the estate, they certainly don't drive slowly. We fail to see how Kirklees Council can suddenly deem this access junction to become safe. We feel they are blatantly prioritising house building in front of general road and especially pedestrian safety. Every one of the 107 public consultation comments so far have been against this development. Over 90% of the objections quote road safety as a major reason. Not only have Kirklees Council ignored these comments, they have chosen in their wisdom to increase the proposed number of drones from 16 to 21. And yes, this proposed increase was initiated by the council, not by the developer. Mitigation measures to the junction are proposed. They are superficial. They make no difference to the layout of the junction, as the layout cannot be altered. The mitigation measures are on this plan. They propose a new curve 470mm from the wall at the bottom. This curve would be 325mm high to supposedly stop vehicles going through the wall. They fail to mention that the result of this would be to force school children to walk even further into the road than they do now. The other two proposed measures of new markings on the road and high friction road surfacing, although welcome, will have minimal impact in icy or snowy conditions and will need maintaining by whom. I just want to emphasise there's no NIMBYism at play here. As residents, we see these incidents first-hand. Planned increased usage to the junction described, we feel, would simply be irresponsible. And in conclusion, as the parish council objected to the original plan of 16 homes, citing road safety as a major concern, we respectfully request that the revised number of 21 homes results in a similar response. Thereby concludes my report on highway safety.
Okay. Taking a different angle on this, you may remember, we may have noticed it's been raining quite a bit since August. A casual view of the field may not reveal any major objections to the development. However, one could overlook the 12 to 13 metre drop beyond the northern boundary onto Smithy Lane via Dogtop Road. Should the stability of the field be undermined, breakthroughs down this descent could actually be catastrophic. On the Kirklees Planning Applications website, under comments, there was a letter by Frances Bennett of Ashton Bennett Limited, engineering geologist and environmental scientist. So she knows what she's talking about. She pointed out that the ground investigations identified a spring in the centre of the proposed development, whereas the spring water now disperses water through the topsoil and the strata into the open field. Once it is set high and covered with roads and pavements, it could cause significant concern to the site and neighbouring properties. That's her words. She goes on to add, it is imperative that soakways are not allowed on the site and that all such surface water is sent to attenuation tanks and drained through the main drainage. What the main drain is, if that can cope with the sewage, that's not mentioned, that's as far as I can see so far by anybody else. A recent email from Councillor Moses Crook reveals that this development will have surface water attenuation tanks and drainage detail will ensure that no additional risk is posed to any existing structures. He adds highways will be imposing conditions relating to boundary walls to ensure no issue in the future. To date, I see nothing on the Kirklees Planning website under plans and supporting information, providing evidence that these proposals, nor any acknowledgements under consultation responses that these have been addressed, neither by Kirklees, Yorkshire Water or Kirklees Highways. Field investigations undertook on behalf of the developer took place in early, I think, well, it's early summer, it could have been May. Francis Bennett's report was dated May of this year as well. Since August, we have experienced unprecedented rainfall. Climate scientists are warning that action should be taken now and that greater and more damaging weather events are predicted. It is fanciful to think that the field has not been affected since these earlier investigations. Poor planning can lead to additional costs. You may be aware, it was in I think it was Yorkshire Live recently, that Villa Farm development at Bradley is currently in the news, suffering floods following prolonged wet spell. A resident is quoted, and that was in the newspaper, the development has not had the correct water measures put into place and has caused major flooding to the site and caused issues to nearby homes. Locally, it's also noted that the wall collapse at Burnley is still unresolved, and nearly 3 years later, it's still causing huge inconvenience, which I'm sure some of you either are affected by it or will be aware of it. My final paragraph. Unfortunately, climate change is here. I was curious that I'm reading this at the time of COP28, so I thought I might pop across there and raise the issue with them. Unfortunately, climate change is here. Whilst recognising the need for more housing, we all get that. No amount of wishful thinking or deferentially following the actions simply because they are part of a council development can alter the fact that an unwise development may lead to a significant landslip, flooding, major destruction, excessive costs to the council, not to mention life-threatening injury. That's my point.
Mine's a very short one. Holmbridge residents were surprised when this planning committee opposed the application on the grounds of only road safety and affordable housing. Last time it was discussed, which I think was May of this year, we were pleased that it was opposed on road safety. But we never seem to get onto the Holme Valley development plan, which we have now for the Holme Valley. And the first priority of that is to, and I quote, to protect and enhance the landscape and character of the Holme Valley. So we don't think that building 21 new houses on the Bankfield Drive estate would enhance the Holme Valley landscape. 21 houses correspond to 35 dwellings per hectare, which is quite a high number of houses. This site is only 600 metres away from the Peak Park boundary, which is well known for its beauty and benefits to people. We see all sorts of people, walkers, cyclists, photographers, bird spotters in the valley, and people who enjoy the countryside. And in fact, the government are currently considering a new national park, unfortunately probably in the Cotswolds, and plus the possible expansion of the existing parks. Now, this was similar to a situation several years ago when Yorkshire Water wanted to build a water treatment plant right up to the edge of the Peak Park boundary. Doing this would have destroyed the visual amenity of the area, and they were persuaded to build the plant underground by both Holmfirth and Kirklees councils. Allowing the site and the 3 adjacent so-called safeguarded fields, which would obviously follow on, to be built on, would also badly affect the wildlife living on the edge of the national park. And this is another priority of the Holme Valley plan, which is to protect wildlife. We have owls, brown hares, hedgehogs, and even deer are frequently seen in this area, and also in local gardens, and I think John will vouch for that one. since the national park has a zigzag boundary which actually softens the transition between the urban sprawl and the beautiful parkland. This point was realised by Her Majesty's Planning Inspector when she allocated the site in 2019, provided it was allocated for housing, providing that the proximity of local wildlife sites should be considered. The other provisos were for a transport report, which would include road safety that Stephen spoke about, and a field drainage report, which Richard spoke about. These have already been discussed. For some reason, I've come across the Qualities Act, which appears in Kirklee's design guides now, which means that access to the site was never mentioned in the inspector's report of 2019. So to summarise, Homebridge residents and the visitors that we get to the area would like this planning committee to continue to oppose this application after considering these extra points that we've raised this evening. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Okay, there's a few agenda items to get through, but then we can suspend standing orders. This is the first of the applications on house anyway.
It is, yes, we don't need to.
So we can then talk about it in more detail. Okay? So you just have to bear with me to go on.
No problem.
Okay. Recordings, we're obviously being recorded anyway. Does anyone who wish to make further recordings of this meeting? No? Thank you very much. Apologies for absence.
We have apologies for absence from councillors Fenwick, Lyles, Barnett and Colling, and an existing dispensation for councillor Fernandez. Reasons for apologies were circulated earlier.
Are we all okay with those reasons? Yep. Okay. Thank you. 119, to receive members and officers' personal and disclosable pecuniary interests in items on the agenda. Does anyone have any interest in those items?
Might seem flippant to sort of residents at Central Home first, and Prickleton Mills being a community for aged people. You might say that I might have an interest, but I don't think it's a serious one.
I don't think it, that's even next week.
Yeah, I have an interest in the application for the tech that's in, as I'm a shareholder.
I suppose I would also declare the same interest.
Right.
Exactly.
Oh, you can still speak on it, but you might decide not to vote on it if that's what you choose to do.
Okay, we can decide when we get to the
Well, we might not be quorum for that, yeah. We might not have quorum,
No.
two apologies.
I don't expect it matters for the vote, does it? As long as it's the majority of those voting, so for a lot of people who and under the votes, then it's the majority of the deciding to try.
Okay. Where have we got to? Consider written request for newly granted dispensations.
None received.
Thank you. Item 121. Consider whether items on the agenda should be discussed in private session. Don't think we have anything to do with it. Needs to be discussed in private. Okay. Item 122, to confirm the minutes of the previous meeting. To approve the minutes of them.
Councillor Blacker very rightly pointed out that I've put a mistake in, non-deliberate mistake, so I have
I was
made.
going to mention it.
Okay. So I have made an amend, I've uploaded the corrected version to the website.
Okay. So, to consider new or amended, no, not to that, approve the minutes of the meeting held on the 16th of October 2023, with amendment.
With amendment.
Okay? Item 123, note the list updated with the views of the committee. And we note that.
That's
And we're now on to 124 new planning applications, so could we suspend standing orders so that we can have discussion with the members of the public? Are we all okay with that? So, if I may just start. Okay, first one then is Lambeth Bankfield Drive. I guess we've all got something to say on this one. I thought if we could to start with Councillor James, done a lot of work, I think we all bear that, and perhaps it would be one if you sort of briefly went through that.
Thank you, Chair. I did, as other members of the planning committee know, spend some time drafting a fairly lengthy set of comments on this, and I've done my best to abbreviate them. I'll try and make them as short and focused as I can. There will be a degree of repetition from some of the points that the residents have already made, but what I didn't do was to spend a lot of time going through the objections that have been made because they've already been registered. Although some changes have been made to this application by the inclusion of 4 affordable 2 and 3 bedroom houses, this still actually fails to meet the concerns expressed by the Parish Council and Kirklees about affordable housing provision. Developments should, according to Kirklees, include a mixture of 1, 2 and 3 bedroom for properties for sale and rent, is what the guidance says. And it should include housing designed to meet the needs of older people and properties for first-time buyers. Using these criteria spelled out in the Kirklees local plan, the proposed development does not meet these requirements. The inclusion of an additional 5 houses also increases the density of the housing on the site by a full third, whilst failing to meet the required criteria concerning housing mix. In terms of climate mitigation, my own view, and I would put it to the council, developers should build these properties with solar panels. They should be built with electric vehicle charging points, and they should be fitted with heat pumps rather than gas condensing boilers. The developers have failed to take any serious attempt to look at these issues. And I did wonder when I was looking at this whether there was any potential for a community energy project that could be considered in the context of the development. The increase from 16 to 21 properties sees an increase in the expected level of car ownership on the site, with provision of parking for increase to 51 vehicles, which will result in an increased amount of traffic in peak hours. Now, in this context, I looked particularly closely at the transport statement addendum, which was assessing the impact of the proposed development on traffic using Dogtop Road, Lathebank Drive, Bankfield Drive. And it's of particular significance, I think, in terms of the application as it stands, because the estimates of traffic flows on Dogtop Road are questionable as a result of deficiencies in the traffic data collected. You've seen from the map where Smithy Lane is. The recording device that was used to collect the data on which this report is based was positioned at the top of Smithy Lane. It therefore only recorded traffic using Dogtop Road to access Smithy Lane and vice versa. It does not record traffic travelling along Dogtop Road in either direction. So in this context, it should be noted, as has already been commented, Dogtop Road is a key part of a rural school route used daily by parents and children. It is narrow, it's frequently obstructed by parked vehicles, and yes, there is one section of footpath about 30 metres long in a road that is some 600 metres long. The proposed development may also be accessed by both of these other routes, and any such movements have not been recorded. So 2 out of the 3 possible routes that traffic from this development and other local road users might use involving Dogtop Road are not recorded in the traffic flow data. The report then goes on to argue on the basis of these flawed data that the peak hour traffic generation is well below the accepted threshold in both peak hour periods, and therefore no further assessment is required. It concludes that the proposed development will not result in material impact on the operation or safety of the local highway network. It's also important to note that the report indicates there were no public service vehicles included in the total traffic count. However, Dog Lane, Dog Top Road and Smithy Lane are used by the H5 bus service, which is provided by Scots and which runs hourly between 9:30 and 16:30. So I think this casts further doubt on the weight that can be placed on the report, and its conclusions are clearly questionable given the limitations of the data collected by the traffic survey. In view of this, I think it is evident that the report's junction capacity assessments may be inadequate and that further more rigorous assessment is required. In the light of these concerns, I think careful consideration should also be given to imposing a 20-mile-an-hour speed limit on Dogtop Road should the development go ahead. Point has already made the introduction of anti-skid high friction service at the junction of these roads will not be sufficient to reduce the risk of skid-related accident when the road is covered with snow and ice. Remembering, as has already been mentioned, neither of these roads are gritted during winter months. It should also be noted that the proposed installation of the safety curb will actually further reduce the width of the road by about half a metre. And the installation of this, in order to be effective, will require substantial infill work up to the boundary stone wall because of the steep cantle that is developed on the northern side of the road. So this transport statement addendum concludes that it has demonstrated that additional traffic generated by the development can be safely and satisfactorily accommodated on the local highway network, and that there are no further highway or transport related issues that would prevent the application from being granted planning consent. However, on the basis of the omissions and concerns outlined above, I think this conclusion is very much open to question, and in turn it calls into question the decision to increase the number of proposed properties from 16 to 21. There are also concerns identified by many residents, which have already been referred to, about issues of drainage and water supply to and from the proposed site. My final comment is that I think given the large number of Labour representations, it's a matter of regret that there were no prior consultations between the developers and the parish council and local residents. Had this taken place, at least some of the concerns that are currently being expressed by residents might have been addressed in advance of submitting this application. That's my best.
Thank you very much. And thanks for putting that together.
Could I just agree with Councillor James on that? Because right from the very beginning, it always worried me that the people, the company that was doing the traffic, were paid for by the builder. So there's always been a slight tendency to manipulate the facts, could I say, rather than, and Councillor James pointed out, when it says there is intermittent pavement on Dogtop Road, there's a length of pavement, the length of this road, on half a mile of road, all the way to
That's when they put those new houses.
the new houses, which is good. I mean, you can't blame some of them. Those houses were, Backfield Drive was constructed in the early 70s. That was when the West Riding rules and regulations applied, and the new rules regarding Kirklees, gradients, etc. only came in 2018-19, as far as I can remember. But you get what you're stuck with to some extent, but you don't make it worse. That's the whole point that we're all trying to say. We're terrified of a child being fatally injured or something on that, against that road. This isn't a safety curve. It keeps being described as a safety curve. 40 millimetres, 40 millimetres wide, and it effectively it would trap somebody again. You know, they can't walk on it as a pavement. It would smash their ankles off before it hit the wall. Any car's got a bonnet 80 centimetres long. Sorry about that.
I would just like to mention as well that there's been various things in the plan that we've asked for further information on various vagaries, emissions, and it has been chased by Ellie Thornhill to the developer. We've been given 3 different dates. It's gone past those 3 dates. Now she's saying that all the summer on holiday at Ryan Homes. Public consultation finished on the 8th of December. There's obviously a great deal of stalling tactics here, so that we've not got all the information that we need to actually make a constructive decision and constructive comments on the application in the first place. we've got a big long list here, which obviously we only got a certain amount of time, 3 minutes each to mention everything. But we've got a big list to, which is totally unanswered by Ryan in the plans.
Councillor Blacker.
I think I said in May, I mean, this land has been allocated for housing on the local development plan. So I think it will, eventually, there will be building on there. So, but we need to do all we can to kind of mitigate what, to try and make it impact as little as possible on local residents. I mean, it's quite a shoddy application really, because I've noticed that in the planning statement it's still talking about 16 houses, and as we all know that's gone up to 21. So I think that's a kind of illustration of the fact that perhaps not a great deal of care has been taken over this. I think somebody rightly said that the increase from 16 to 21 was as a result of Kirklees Council asking for affordable housing. So that wasn't the developers. That's certainly correct. I mean, we opposed it last time. I think we've opposed it twice at least. I think, and my feeling is that we oppose it again, and we continue to ask for the kind of the mitigation. And one thing that we did oppose it for last time, which wasn't mentioned, was about the it was weak on sustainability and climate action. So I think certainly we ought to mention, we ought to perhaps stress that more than we did last time. And the traffic and the drainage. But I think.
And the access.
Yeah. And the access. Yeah.
Could I just mention, and you might not have noticed, it actually started out as 25 houses. When the phase 1 study was carried out on 25 houses, then it went to 16 houses. Now it's gone up to 21 houses. Each of those plans has had a different house layout and road design, and the supporting evidence. You can't work out what refers to what with it. It should have been.
It's unfortunate that you would think you would put in a new application.
Exactly.
And you don't.
Yeah.
So you're left with all the options, and it's very confusing as to what's.
Yeah, it's terrible.
Yeah.
I'd like somebody to explain to me how it works.
Can I just bring Councillor Leeds with that?
Yeah, I was going to say, I think we need to be realistic about this. Like as Councillor Blacker has mentioned about this being designated as land as part of a local plan, it's about getting the best that we can do for this, because realistically, I think at some point there will be development done on this, and it will happen. And I'm not trying to cover it. I've been up Backfield Drive myself. I'm from the other side of the valley, but I was trying to work it out in my head. I think 2021 in the summer, the Scarecrow Trail. I went and walked there, and I remember it 2021 because my son was about a year old at that point. So I remember pushing him up there in his pram, and it's hard work. It's very steep, and you kind of remember things like that. Like, cause you do remember how when you see a road like that, you're thinking, "Wow, this is really, really steep," and it is.
Yeah.
So, like when you're talking about the accidents and the additional journeys and the extra cars, you're thinking that like if it's free a year at the moment, and you're going to increase the number of houses by a third, it's going to go up by a third, isn't it? So it's logical to think that like that. The other things that were mentioned tonight, which we didn't mention before, you have density, so over intensification of the site, concerns about the runoff with the water and problems like that, and maybe making the site unstable. So I think that there are additional things we can mention. Like I said, like before, they refused 16 because it wasn't enough at Kirklees. Now they want more, but I don't think more is good. I think it's too much. So I don't know where this is going to go when it goes to Kirklees, based on like earlier comments.
Can I just say, although it was allocated on the plan, it was allocated with certain provisos. One of those was road transport and traffic safety and drainage problems. So it wasn't carte blanche.
No, I think the point is here that
No, it never is it?
it's just purely allocated
just
for
allocated.
development. And what we can talk about is what that development looks like. And I think that's the sort of situation we're in.
There's like 2 points. Councillor James mentioned the way this has been dripping in, one application followed by another application. And I think it's quite inappropriate. We went to a meeting with Councillor Davis and Councillor Crook and we've all raised the same concerns we're raising tonight. And they asked us to send emails identifying what our concerns are. And I got this email back from Councillor Crook, which is fair enough. But the wording that I used in my email was almost word for word the wording I got back, but into a positive spin to say it will be dealt with by Orion. Well, this is why I put it in mind that the development will have surface water attenuation tanks. Now, that's what the geologists pointed out in their description of the site. And this was taken word for word from my... Now, that doesn't give me much faith that my objections or my concerns are being taken seriously. They're simply to please and keep me quiet. And this other thing about what's really alarmed me more than anything else is the weather we've had since August. I have to reiterate again now, is that prior to that, all the inspections that were carried out in May, probably not August, sorry, July maybe, but certainly at that. And this is the driest part of the year in a very dry year, until August. And since then, we've had almost continual rain. And my concern was this site needs proper evaluation, in view of the way things have changed, because I don't think this is going to stop.
Yeah, another of the tricks that they normally try and do is as well is with these traffic surveys is try and do them around half term when it's quieter and things like that. So you see stuff like that happen quite often. What I would say about the ward councillors is, like if you'd emailed me or anything about this, as councillors we aren't allowed to tell you our views about things and stuff like that before meetings. When we come to these meetings, we're not supposed to have a prejudicial view. So if I was to tell you before this meeting, it's a lot of rubbish and I hate this application, I wouldn't be able to speak on it now. You can't have prejudicial interest. So if they are sending you these things across and they're not replying back to you and they're being a bit vague, but that's probably why, because they can't go out there and say these things. We have to listen to the arguments on both sides, and like Councillor James has done where he's looked at the survey. We have to look at things at both sides and then make our opinions up, but we can't tell people what we think before the meetings.
And we'll make a committee decision.
But I do hope that, well, they are reading your emails, and I do hope that they will take on board the things that are being raised.
However, I think the point that's just been made about the change of climate, the increased rainfall and so on, I think that's probably something that we should put in our. I'm kind of jumping the gun here, thinking we aren't going to vote to oppose this, but I think we should include that, because obviously the situation has changed over the last.
Because if this runoff is that significant, if that pool underneath that field is that significant, what's going to happen in the next few years' time? I mean, Riding Wood has been full for at least 6 weeks earlier on this year. I've never seen water that up there for whatever.
The issue is the high 9-foot retaining wall at the northern end of the site is in danger, especially with constructing 21 houses, one house of which is 12 metres from that wall.
Okay.
Yeah.
Could I just make a quick point? Could somebody explain to me what the procedure is? Because this idea of the builder paying somebody to send in a report, a transport report or whatever, if they'd done like Councillor James said and had a discussion with the council before, I think it would be a lot more to the point. And then I trust these officers doing transport assessments, etc. The builders who are being paid by the people who are being paid by the builder. The first transport report was a total joke. And I don't see what's the point of issuing something that's full of.
I think we have to hope that the Kersley's transport people will see through it.
Is that the procedure? They have to go and correct it, because they've issued a correction to the 16 houses now appended to the report for the 21 houses.
I don't know whether it's germane, but it's not transport, it's back to the flood that the local authority responded on the 1st of November, again, to object to how bad the drainage proposals were. So it's actually on the website, on the website, document 1st of November. Consultation response from Casey, lead local flood authority, to the erection of 21 dwellings, and dated the refer back to a response they made in May, but then they're looking at the later plans and say the submitted plan does not show any drainage details and no other drainage related information, blah 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 blah. So the local flood authority objects to the plan application, requires a revised surface water drainage strategy submitted with the specified volumes of water, which would hopefully address flood concerns.
We've got 3 separate sewage drainage plans, and the latest one, a sewer goes straight through the oak tree that we specified would never be moved. So it just leaves us amateur planners totally.
Okay, I think we need to wrap this up.
Okay,
There's 32 others to do.
as long as we've got the message, as long as we've got the message clear.
Just make one final comment, Chair, and that is relates to the concern about how Kirklees might respond to the traffic issue. I think the fact that the traffic survey data are so seriously flawed is something that we should draw very directly to their attention, and invite them to look again at this.
And if we can move to what our position is now, and then we can perhaps go through some of the bullet points.
Going back to Councillor Blacker saying that you think as though the wheels might keep turning, it might still get through no matter what. Is there no way that we could get the things restarted?
I'll come to that.
Okay, thank you.
We'll be to oppose anyway.
Thank you very much.
Would we like to vote on that?
No one says, thank you.
I don't know.
Okay.
Do you want some help with this, Jerry?
So my question is, are you happy to take some of Councillor James's comments as part of our, given how much work you've done?
I'm happy to send you
already.
comments
Sure.
that I use this evening.
I'll do we want it as he's read it out this evening, or do you want to add anything to it, take anything out of it?
I would like to add one thing, and that's, I think we sort of talked about it before, and that's materials being used. I'm not happy that the artificial stone deserves something a bit better.
Identification,
Yeah.
concerns about flooding and the environment, which will be mentioned as well.
In terms of where it goes next, I mean, clearly our comments will go to Kirklees and hopefully take some notice of it. It's almost certain that it will go to committee at Kirklees because of the number of objections and such like. So you have an opportunity to speak at the Kirklees planning, and I would suggest that you take that opportunity up. And they, try and keep it concise and to the point.
Arguing against consent. Arguing against consent.
Sorry, it would be quite good to read out all the list of why we're objecting. We got a full list there.
I've got most of the list. But if you are happy to delegate it, the final comments to a small group, perhaps myself, Councillor Wilson and Councillor James, to put it together before it goes off, then that'll be fine. But we are so far including. I've not written everything that Councillor James wrote out because I knew I would just get it off later. So all of that. We are looking at problems with the traffic survey, not including some of the roads, not including the public buses. It's not made perhaps including school traffic in there. Everybody felt that there was more
Delivery drivers at
needed.
Christmas.
Delivery drivers. And that if anything does go ahead, that they should consider a 20 miles an hour zone for the area. The safety curb is inadequate and will reduce the width of the road, creating more problems with traffic. Given the number of representations, it's a matter of regret that there has been no consultation with parish or residents We feel like there will be issues with water, runoff and saturation, gradient and slope and road safety. This will make a lot more sense when I've written it in order. Over intensification, climate change, we've seen a vast increase in rainfall and extreme weather in the Home Valley, and our weather is concerned with land saturation. Concern for the retaining wall on the slope. The flood consultee has rejected the information provided and asked for more, so that's not been completed to satisfaction. Draw attention to the whole traffic survey. Concern for the materials not being natural, is that what it said?
Yeah, artificial.
Artificial, yeah, okay. And there was one more that I think I missed.
Climate mitigation.
Climate mitigation.
Could we have one on the non-enhancement of the landscape of the valley? Who's got that one there?
I just want to say a positive thing, which is which is actually to welcome the provision of some affordable housing.
Right, you?
We don't need affordable housing in the valley, I think we should say that.
That's across though, isn't it?
Preferably on
Responding to
easily
that.
accessible sites with
Not-
pedestrian cycling.
Yeah.
People can't cycle up a 1 in 5 hill, unfortunately.
Not saying anything about the
Would have
total
been nice
number,
if,
but just to welcome the provision, the
yeah,
inclusion of affordable housing. which is-
Some, there are no
Well,
one bedroom
some, yeah,
houses,
obviously not.
and no houses for rent.
No.
So
it would have been nice if
Well,
they
some
hadn't increased the numbers
affordable
of it.
housing, just trying to make it.
Okay.
Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you very
Thank you
much.
very much. You're welcome to stop if you
We'll
like.
see.
We don't really standing up about it.
Very interesting.
The problem. Thank you very much. You've obviously done a very thorough job on the statistics in the traffic survey. It was Mark Twain that said we were live, downline statistics, and that's it. Fits it.
Thank you very much.
That was very detailed. It was excellent.
Yeah, really good job.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So, it's 10 to 8, and we're on to number 2.
It's all right.
No, it's okay.
We need to.
We need
We
that.
need to.
Yeah, that's right. So number 2, this one is Councillor Blacker and Councillor James, I think. Erection of first floor balcony to rear and side elevation.
I just think we've got to support this. I didn't particularly like the way the balcony kind of stuck out at the end, at the side, but I can't see any reason for not supporting it. So
Is there any overlooking?
Hmm?
Is there any overlooking or not?
No, I don't think, no, I don't think
No,
that's an issue.
It's the first house that you sort of on the right hand side as you go into town in view, and it
Okay.
looks across the valley.
Okay, are we supporting? Number 3. This one would have been Pat's, wouldn't it? I haven't looked at this. Has anyone looked at this one?
Again, I think it's a detached house with very large grounds, and it already looks, what should I say, it looks as a kind of a complex layout already, and I just think it's what it's going to do is turn a 2-bed into a 4-bed. So it's an extension to create a first floor single story extension. Again, I don't think we've got any reason for not proposing it.
Adequate.
Yeah, it's a good, yeah.
Okay,
It's big, got big grounds.
so support?
Yeah.
Number 4.
Number 4 and number 5 are both the same. So it's changes to the extraction system on the Butchers Arms pub. I think it's fine. It's approved subject to the listed building officer and conservation area officer.
I didn't notice it's been refused twice before, but different designs, so.
Yeah, slightly different, and I think some residents have complained about the sound that it would make before, about the sound, and about maybe the odour that might come out of it.
Yeah, there was the first issue I had as a councillor was with residents in the centre of Netherthorne, where they'd done that. They introduced 3 fans where they should have had 1. So the council actually, the officers made them take 2 away, but the one that was left was still complaining it was making too much noise.
Yeah.
So maybe with a comment on the noise.
Yeah, comment about the noise. I think that's a good idea. Thank you.
I was just going to mention on this one, we have since had a notification to say this is no longer a building or community asset. It's been taken off that register.
Oh yeah, but that was something that happened a few years ago. But yeah, because they were worried because it was closed for a considerable period of time, and they were worried that it was going to change into some houses. A couple of residents and they approached me about it, but it's been reopened again a couple of years now, so I think that's the reason why.
So support with
Subject to.
Listed building, conservation officer. Would have been environmental health officer as well. What they think about the sound? Yeah.
They weren't happy about the smell.
The smell. Yeah.
Same thing.
Yeah.
Got to be in there when there was a fan next door.
So it becomes a curry house, you really have to worry. Providing the smell of spices.
Okay, number 6, change of use, this one, instant focus in Westgate Holway. I did have a look at this. Anyone else looked at it? I mean, I've just put, they're only putting it back to how it used to be anyway. There's no changes internally or externally, I thought.
Yes, that was fine, yeah.
It's listed though, isn't it? We don't listed.
There's no external change.
There's no
We're not
change.
changing externally.
I don't think,
Approved subjects of building and conservation officers. Is that what it is?
yeah,
Because there's 2 the same, like the 6 and 7.
6 and 7,
Yeah.
that's right. And number 8.
That's me again, sorry.
It's been withdrawn.
So it's a 2-storey, this is on Cemetery Road, 2-storey side and single-storey front extension. It is in the green belt, but I thought it was okay. The extension isn't dominant; it's not dominating the building. I don't think it's really impacting the openness of green belt. So I'd say support.
It was interesting because there was clearly some hassle between the planning officer and the applicants because they appealed against his decision and won. But the point, the only significant point is that it represents a 45.5% increase in the volume of the property. So it's a big increase, but it's not visible from the road. There are no neighbouring objections.
Green belts.
Sorry?
Green belts.
It is in green belt.
Presumably it's got permitted development rights anyway.
Yes.
Okay, so we're all right with that one?
Mm-hmm.
Number 9, Warfield Farm Cartwell.
This is a very straightforward replacement to agricultural buildings off Cartmore Road. Nobody's going to see it except the cattle that use it.
So you know, it's very isolated, it's agricultural anyway. The only thing is it's in green belt, but it's fine anyway, it falls into the...
It's on the same footprint of the farm.
Is this the one with loads about sheep? Is this the one with loads about sheep? We learned an awful lot from some of these conversations. Major on sheep. Care of sheep.
This is the four.
Well, they have to demonstrate that it is genuinely agricultural.
Yeah,
don't they? I
that's
suppose that's...
It says it's Moorfield Farm, but I think it's the farm that has a sign outside calling it the steak farm.
I thought you said Warfield.
Well, it does, but as far as
No, on the gate post.
but there's also a sign that says the steak farm.
Oh, yeah.
I gathered it was because when they moved there, they thought there was water there and there wasn't. They made a mistake.
Okay, number 10. Change of use. This is on Firth Tech. I've got to say I haven't looked at this one. I've Have we got a problem?
I'm just looking at it right now actually, because I saw this and I saw change of use and I thought, okay, I'm getting alarm bells here. But is the plan still to retain the educational element of the building?
I mean, I said to Gemma earlier on, I think, given that we're small numbers tonight, if we don't feel comfortable that we've considered things properly because of absences, then I'm quite happy, let's just leave it to Kathleen. I'd rather do that than make a comment that we can't support.
I mean, I feel quite strongly about this too, that we should support the change of use. But I was also quite kind of disturbed really by the comments about the parking. I mean, it's always been a problem with parking down the back. So I just wonder if we should suggest that there are some more conditions imposed on the use of the car park. Obviously, the change of use has increased the use of car parks substantially, people coming and going more often, it's obviously upsetting the neighbours greatly. But in terms of the change of use, I think it's more or less a fait accompli. This is what is happening. This is what's happening there now. There is education, but there is a whole range of other things.
It would be perverse of the parish council not to support it.
Yes, it would be. Give it time.
There's a bit of history about this because originally when the building was built, there was covenant placed on it that it should be retained for educational purposes, because when the tech stopped doing the college in there, they wanted to, I think there was a few ideas that they might try and flog it and make it into housing or something like that and make a few quid on it. But I think they were told that they couldn't do this due to the educational covenant on the building. So I've had a look at the plans here now. So the downstairs, the lower ground floor is to be retained as a dance studio, art room, rock room. So I assume, and the workshop as well, so rock room will be music room, I suppose. Ground floor, library, exhibition meeting room, cafe, kitchen, and an office. And then the first floor, a mother and baby education company, which, well, I've been there before, I took my son there. I don't know if he's been educated much from there, but he's been there, he's enjoyed it. There's a business suite, which is, I think it's offices, isn't it? So people can go, they use the office there. Light room, river room, artist studio. So there is a retention of education within there, a mixture of other things. And for the building to be sustainable, I think it needs to have other own elements and things going on there. And it's kind of making it as a community hub. So it's not like it's going to how change of use to be like an office or a shop or housing or something like that. It's for the community and for a variety of purposes. So the gist of it is, I'm happy with it.
So could we support that we should raise the issue about car parking, please?
There's plenty of parking at the court, but people. When I go to the tech, I always use.
Why people persisting going down that
I
terrible.
always awful to get out.
Yeah.
You avoid it like the flooding.
I always use the junction. I always use the car park at the court because it's only 20p if I can an hour as well. It's cheaper, so it's only around the corner. So you can just use that one.
There's one behind it as well. There's one off Bridge Lane, isn't there?
Yes.
As well, the same side.
What do you want to say about the car park?
I think we want to draw attention to
Potential impact
neighbours'
on-
comments around the issue of the car park.
I would require it to vote on this as well. So, are you able to vote on this, Mary, or not?
Yes.
Right, you are.
Unless you share all of it.
So that means there's 4 of us which can vote on it. Is that quorum? Is that enough?
Yeah.
I think it's, as I said before, I think it's the majority, as I was reading about this recently, that it's the majority of those, if it's the majority of those who vote, it's still a majority.
Alright, I propose approve.
Okay.
Yeah.
To draw attention to neighbour commenting on parking.
Yes.
Yeah, please.
Oh,
Oh,
11.
right, again.
I thought we might have had some members of the public on this one. Trickle then. This is myself and Martin.
It's me.
Yeah. I mean, I can kick it off if you like.
Well, I just really went through the comments. I'm a little bit confused about the history of it, because it's one of the other things that's changed and come back, and like Vokir was saying, you get lost in the forest of documents. But even if you were to approve, there's a whole list of things which I can see the same, which I would want to express as concerns. There's a big issue about the access again, and not just the ongoing access, but the upheaval with HGVs getting down there, with the construction site traffic. It's a very sensitive area with the wildlife, the effect on the river, the conservation and so on. Concerned that they're trying to develop a gated community that's going to have closed access, and that might impact. And it seems to be a very good thing if somebody did develop it for continuity of the riverside path. But there are implications in here that it's only going to be for the benefit of the residents. They're putting footpaths outside the site and leaving that to others. There's a huge thing about the size of it. It's back to the one at Lake Avenue. I think 7 stories is perhaps a bit of an exaggeration because they're including basements in the objections, but it's still very big, and photos suggest it's bigger than the original mill that it replaces. So my own feelings is if you put in all the other things like affordable units, which aren't there, if you put in the climate mitigation, solar heating, electric charging points, etc., etc. It is a brownfield, and I'd rather the brownfield be developed than other areas. In preference to Lane Avenue, it's somewhere that's already been built on.
If you look at our comments last time, we opposed it on the basis of size and over-intensification, lack of affordable housing, not in keeping with surrounding building style, loss of light for adjacent properties, flood risks, loss of wildlife, loss of the mill pond, highways issues with the additional traffic on Holligates, gated sites which block access to the river, not in line with the NDP, and a lack of consultation with residents or the parish council. And I just think, what's changed?
It's pretty much the same as the
Well,
job.
I mean, Historic England's comments basically were, we made a lot of comments, and not one of them has been addressed. I mean, there's a précis of their reply.
And I thought that was quite damning,
And you kind of think, did the applicant actually read anything that was said?
And the Environment Agency report is strongly opposed to it because of the flooding risk. And they talk about risk of life because of flooding of these supposed basement car parks. It's bizarre. I don't know what these people are thinking of.
Sorry, I mean, there are some positive things, and I suppose we shouldn't just look at the negative things. I mean, field site, and I think people generally want to see something there.
Yeah, totally.
I think we'd all like to see the riverside path open. There's some fairly decent stuff on the climate mitigation, but it's outweighed by.
I think they need to do some more work, don't they? Because British Council Environment have raised a number of questions again, and including the maintenance of the planting and the bridge. Who's going to look after the bridge, and then highways. Asking for further information on more amendments. But the thing I thought was pretty telling is about there's no community consultation again, and then they suggest they're not going to do it because it may confuse matters.
For them.
It's so patronising. It's really moving to
I also think it's worth it. I mean, I take the point there are some potential positives, but given the amount of time this one's been going, the fact that they're still coming back with marketed housing only is a disgrace, quite frankly. It's appalling.
They claim there isn't enough money in it.
I think if you build any flats in that close to the centre of Firth, they're not going to be affordable because they're very desirable. And but in a way, if you do get 61 flats in there, it's a lot more people living near to Firth who will spend their money in the shops and do good things for it. So there is some, and what you were saying is we do want brownfield sites and things like this to be developed, but on the right terms really. So, and I think everything that Andy's mentioned still stands and I think I would refuse it on that basis.
So, I'm
How's
watching
the phone?
same again. So the parish council would like to draw attention to previous comments, which also stand, none of these comments seem to have been addressed. Also not addressed are comments from the Environment Agency, Historic England, Kirklees Environment and Kirklees Highway. Anybody? Okay.
I mean, this will be another one that goes to committee, won't it?
Yeah, I would hope.
Well, it did before, didn't it?
Yeah.
Got refused, so.
I imagine it would do.
Okay, so we're opposing that, yeah. Where are we, number 12. Demolition of modern farm buildings, blah, 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 no food go. And we have a look at this one. Listed building in a conservation area. We've had pre-app advice, which of course, we haven't been privy to. There's one comment from the neighbour. It's a complicated one, this, because it was given permission in 2022. We didn't comment on it at that point. We deferred it to the listed buildings officer. So they had something, they had permission to do something. They are now claiming that this version is an improved one, and that the old approved version is their fallback position. Something about this irritates me. It's like, this is what we really want. Yeah.
Yeah.
And if you don't give us permission, then we're going to do what we don't want us to do. I have to say though, you know, on the positive front, it's a smaller footprint than exists. It actually enhances the list of buildings that's there. There's ecological enhancements. I think genuinely the fallback position will be a good idea.
Yes.
So my feelings are subject to list of buildings officers. I would support it. Are we okay with that? Number 13.
Is that the same?
That's a list of buildings one.
Yeah.
Yes. 14 then. Selection of rear dormer. Anfield Shore Lane.
I had a quick look at this, Chair. I couldn't see any serious issues with it. I can support it.
Oh, I had a couple of issues with this, and I'll dissuade, but I didn't think the materials were very appropriate. It's essentially a plastic dormer they're putting on the back of the house. It's a stone-built house with red tiled roof and grey plastic on, and a flat roof as well.
I knew that was coming.
No parking spaces either.
The other thing that struck me about it was that, I mean, if you've been up that part of Shore Lane, it is the narrowest lane you can imagine, and with parked cars on it. It's a 4-bedroom house. There was only parking at best. You might squeeze 2 on it, but really only 1. Now, it's already a 4-bed, but they're making it a bigger 4-bed. So I've got concerns about the parking. I've got concerns about the material. Just don't seem to keep them.
I didn't pick up on those, but I'm quite happy to
It's
share.
actually quite an attractive house. It's stone built with red tile roof.
Yeah, no, makes sense.
And actually, the porch that they've included on this, haven't they? They've already done that. And that actually looks quite nice. It's a stone built porch with the same red tile roof. So quite why they've gone to a plastic one. Write it all on the porch.
Should we refuse materials not in keeping?
I'd like to see better materials, and I'd question the parking as well. Whether it's sufficient for a 4-bed house.
I've also, it is a tight corner.
It's a nightmare getting through there from your to your house.
Is that opposed or support with conditions?
I'd like to oppose, but certificate of lawfulness, 12 Honeyhead Lane. This is another one, I think I looked at 50. I couldn't really see anything wrong with this one. All the materials match, it's stone and the same tiles. I support that one. Okay. 16. Discharge conditions.
We normally
We
refer
know.
these to the case police officers, so they're just marking their homework and making sure that they know what they have to do, so I refer that to case police officers.
Yeah.
The next one looks to be the same as well. No, it's a
Oh, no,
different
it's
one.
different.
Yeah, different
but
one.
it's
Same discharge conditions.
yes.
My only comment on this application is the amount of impermeable surfaces in the site.
Which one is this? On the,
Veterans. Sorry, I will.
17.
Oh,
yeah.
yeah.
Or 18 are we on there?
No, 17.
17, sorry, yeah.
I can defer to Kurt, please, with concerns for impermeable surfaces.
Because, you know, when you look at the site, there's an awful lot of impermeable surfaces for parking and roadway and whatever.
But presumably that's.
I mean, they
been
have,
allowed
they put it,
by-
yeah, I mean, they put it in an attenuation tank at the bottom of the site.
Are they impermeable? I thought that all driveways and outstanding had to be permeable surfaces now.
What they, yeah,
Is that what?
it doesn't seem to read that, let's put it like that. It's block paving and things of that nature, which tends to be non-permeable.
Is this just saying that they've done this now and they just want,
Yeah.
Yeah.
they're just asking for the condition to be signed off, aren't they?
But also there's no, I mean, I missed the first application, there's no solar panels or anything like that.
Yeah.
I don't know how far this one goes back.
There's two ways. There's not much we can really do about it now. Does it say
2020.
Yeah, it goes back a long way.
2020? Yeah, so
Probably claim it's nothing to do with us.
I can't.
It's your fault.
Coco's approved it.
Just a straight
Yeah.
defer to Kurt, please.
Yes.
Flood people are not happy, those reports are not happy, quite a lot of people are not happy
Yeah.
about this. I mean, we could raise the issue of
Yeah.
the lack of permeable surfaces, couldn't we? As well as referring it to Kirklees.
Yeah.
offices.
I mean, there are
We can just-
concerns
just
raised
question.
by, you know, they wanting to discharge their condition and the powers that be that look at it kind of go, oh, we're not actually totally happy. You kind of think that should raise concerns.
Okay. Number 18, demolition of existing conservatory station house. Holder. 18, I haven't looked at this.
It's actually Phil Firth, isn't it? That's it's Holland.
No, it's on Homley Station.
That's one I do. It's Holland, isn't it? It's Homley Station.
Yeah.
Ah,
I didn't look at it, I didn't particularly like it, but I couldn't see any reason for not.
Yeah, it's a
not
difficult one
supporting
to
it, yeah.
oppose.
Difficult one to oppose, yeah, I thought.
You've got a flat roof.
Why not just say it, I think keep existing, it'll be well. It's been extended quite a bit already, and I've
Should be approved.
got to do it.
Okay.
Support it, rather.
Support, yes. 19. Alterations to Enchibald Garage to extend living accommodation in Honley. Look at this one, I believe. Yes. Essentially, they're turning the garage into accommodation. Materials all seem to match. There's still enough parking even without the garage. Couldn't really see any problem with it. Anyone else with comments? Support?
Okay with it?
Yeah.
Number 20, outline application for detached dwellings, Tony Bank House.
Have a look at this one. Big old house with a big garden and space for our house in it. So I don't really have much to refuse it on. What I would add is, I think there must be some listed buildings down there. I'm surprised that if Stony Bank House isn't listed, or across the road there might be a listed building. So I would mention that maybe proximity to listed buildings could be an issue, but I don't really have reasons to refuse it.
I think the issue would seem to be access, because they've gone to great lengths, haven't they, to claim that access is okay.
I think it would be okay there. It's a very quiet road. There's not much traffic goes through there.
I mean, I assume that the highways engineers are going to look at this and say.
It is quite a narrow road, but it's very quiet. They built some new houses nearby there recently, but it'll still be quiet. But we go for walks down there quite a bit, so no, it's not.
It'll be more interesting when it comes back as a full application, I think we can see what they're trying to put there.
Yeah.
I think at this point we're doing a bit of a fishing exercise, aren't we? Is access okay? And if it is, then we'll put the plan on.
Yeah. So yeah, and concerns about the access and proximity to possible proximity to listed buildings, but apart from that, I don't think it's really an issue.
Yeah. So forth on the basis of those sort of
Provisions.
provisos, yeah. 21. Radiation condition. This is another one, isn't it?
This is
The same
another one
lines.
related.
No, they seem fairly minor changes to me.
Yeah, I mean, it's,
Something
Yeah,
related to Kersley's.
yeah, I think so. It's, I mean, the number of properties is staying the same, it's just
Technical.
pretty boring houses.
Have these the ones just before you get to where the middle of it used to be?
Yeah.
Yeah, on the left hand side, yeah.
All the ones are just they've been there.
Just before you get to them ones where the building.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's come through us before a few times.
Yes.
Hasn't it?
Yes. Okay. 22. Single story front extension. Huntsfield Road.
I've had a look at this one. It's just up from where Scout Hall is in Newville, just kind of, or if I get to Terry's and a little track up there. So, yeah, it's a very big house, and the actual changes they're making are very minor. It's absolutely fine.
I couldn't find much information on this. I couldn't see the application on the Kersley's website.
Yeah, it's on there. Yeah, it's a massive house. It's a massive house. I
Yeah.
didn't realise it was a big house that big up there. Well, it's just really tiny changes on the front of like
Yeah.
the window.
I mean,
it's very minor changes,
I couldn't see any reason to
No, I thought it was fine.
and it won't impact anybody that there.
Okay, so we'll support that one. 20. So, brilliant, yeah.
23.
23. Single story station road on there again. We had this, haven't we?
The one was Station House, Station Road. This is 50 Station Road.
Okay.
Yeah, I looked
Yeah.
at this and wasn't happy with it. I thought needed more information. It was so it's removing the garage, but it does the parking arrangement, and it's a large extension in relation to the size of the house, and it looked very close to the boundary fence, but it's difficult to tell. There's no dimensions on the plans, so I think it's difficult to make any. I don't have any access to the rear, so it's difficult to make a decision really. But I would be inclined to say that we oppose this for this lack of insufficient information really to make a decision. Did anybody else look at it?
I haven't.
No.
It's insufficient information.
So shall we move to oppose on the basis there's not enough information?
Yeah.
I was
24, agricultural building, Snowgate Head.
Yeah. For all of this, it's a new barn that they're putting up. Yeah.
Some detail about sheep.
Support agriculture.
I mean, again, it's in green belt, it qualifies.
Yeah, it's agriculture rules.
So,
So yeah, I'd suggest we approve it.
25. Direction of 2-story side and single-story rear extensions, Hornview Avenue. I've made a note that we've already commented on this previously.
We did.
Checked.
Yes,
We
opposed
posted.
it. I don't know why that's come earlier.
I think it's a re-plan.
What do you have to say?
Did it?
We opposed it because of parking, it wasn't set back, the extension not set back from the main building, too close to the property
Comments
boundary,
made
the
last
things
time.
we did last time.
Yeah.
So it didn't seem much revision. There's this issue that I do vaguely remember about the drains.
Yes,
about
it's a
the-
note
about
about
the building
culvert,
filling
isn't
on
it?
top of the drains,
Yeah.
so, yeah. And the plans are really confusing. It looks like a rear extension only, I couldn't work out the side extension.
I think we've significantly reduced what we're going to do. I think it's the one we're thinking of.
Please have put our comments on last time on the side, which seemed a bit odd.
Are there any superseded documents in the
Yeah.
bottom, so it'll be a resubmission? Amended.
So it's difficult to tell which comments on the current version, and which previous ones, but certainly the flood authority, both the latest flood authority, or in the Cameron survey. And I remember that was a problem last time, the drains, Cameron drains.
I don't know why they don't have to submit a new application when it's like this. It's very confusing, isn't it, when
Yeah.
you're looking at old documents and trying to decide for what's changed.
Did they withdraw their original and then put a new one in?
You usually find on the application page that there's a set of superseded documents, which are the old ones that we put in, and anything that is in the
When you look at the
plans is
actual
current.
application, it's still the same. one.
Yeah, the application form is that will be the same, the applicant plans and the ones that are current.
Looking at the drawings now, this I think was the original one that we objected to, which is like a double fronted house, isn't it? You know, it's but the current plan,
Is that superseded one?
that's the superseded one. The present one, it's just taken a third of it away.
Is that the side extension is gone?
Yeah.
Is that,
Yeah,
that's
it's,
all
uh,
right.
yeah.
But I still think they're wrong about the drains.
Stick with the trains. Stick with the trains.
Is it sufficient for us to oppose on the basis of drainage, or are we? I mean, we don't have to comment.
Are we sufficiently knowledgeable about building over drains?
Personally, I don't feel comfortable making a comment on it because I studied it in that depth and I must apologise for that. I mean, we can refer to Kirklees, but
Yes.
point out about the drainage.
That's just, yeah.
Okay, 26.
Yeah, I looked at this, and this was one you invited us to look at fairly closely. I wasn't quite sure why. Well, it's essentially it's the erection of a single dwelling on an unused piece of garden. I thought that the architects had done a lot of work and put a lot of thought into making sure that the building would fit in with its surroundings, that it wouldn't clash with the old school building opposite. It was well screened. They have given a lot of thought to climate mitigation measures, solar panels, air source heat pump, electric vehicle charging point, porous surfaces. I didn't see any flat roofs in there either. So I thought it was actually a very creditable proposal and one that made absolute sense, personally.
I think in isolation I would agree with you, and the reason I sort of put it on that list, I was on the fence a bit, but they've tried twice before, it's had 2 previous applications which have been withdrawn, and the Conservation and Design Office opposed it in 2014 because of its detrimental effect on the listed building opposite, i.e. the old school.
I didn't see the original one, but they appear to have given a lot of thought to building materials and.
I agree with you, yes.
So
They said in 2014, whatever you built there is going to have a detrimental effect, it wouldn't be suitable. And I just wonder whether we ought to take a view on it one way or the other.
I don't quite see that really. I mean, this current one is a very plain, simple
It is.
design, isn't it? And I think talk about transition between the school building and the red brick, which certainly looks completely out of place. But I thought it was fine. And yeah,
It
yes,
is unfortunately
yeah,
dead opposite the school.
yeah.
I mean, there's a slight echoing of certain design aspects from the school building.
I mean, and certainly as a building, if it was anywhere other than where it is, I don't think you'd even think twice about it. You'd say it's good materials, it's good climate.
I thought the architect's description of their attempts to make it kind of match on to the school building, I thought they put a lot of thought into it personally.
Well, the only thing I thought, sorry, I thought you did it mischievously. So this is a really good application compared with the Mosque Berlin, which is perfunctory.
It's Swift boxes, too.
Yes. I thought, you know, you're showing us a model application compared with a wrong application. I wasn't aware of the history.
I just think
wasn't aware of the history.
it's just that one aspect, isn't it, that clearly historically has been a problem.
Yeah.
Have they done enough now to overcome that?
I think leave it to the officers to see.
We can take a view on it, and that's what we're here for, isn't it? To give our local sort of knowledge on
And
these
it's
things.
a 3-bedroom house as well, and it's a modest kind of house, and
Yes.
we're desperately in need of those.
And it's next to a red brick house.
And it's
isn't
next
it?
to a red brick
Yes.
house, yeah.
Let's
And
see
I
some
I would
lens
support it.
through.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I support it.
Yeah, fine. Accommodation for Swifts as well, as Adrian said.
Interesting to see what Kirklees do with them, isn't it? 27, which will remain new and available.
Yes, I've just been looking at this one here, you've been discussing the application. So at the moment, it's a large house, a 4-bedroom house with a single story, kind of looks to be an extension on the side and a bit at the back. And they want to build up on that and make it even bigger and nicer. I can't really think of any planning reasons to refuse it. There's already a considerable amount of parking there and a garage further around, so there's plenty of space for that's not really going to change anything.
I just questioned parking, but I couldn't really
No,
form a decision on that.
I think there is plenty of space for parking there. There's a garage right around the side and a big driveway. So
I mean, it's a big place, isn't it?
It's big.
25 then, isn't it?
yeah, no, I think it's going to be 4, but they're doing a lot of internal works and moving things around the upstairs, so they're going to demand the bedrooms and bigger space. So I don't think it's really going to change too much as it is. So I don't think I don't have any reasons to refuse it.
Okay.
So it's approved.
28, demolition of garage, erection of single 2-story side extension, no problems.
Yeah, I think I'll look at this one as well. It's, well, I suppose it's a bit similar to the last one with side extension. This space for it there. I can't think of any reason to refuse it. I think it's okay. It's pretty unremarkable. Yeah.
29, alterations to workshop to create dwelling accommodation. St George's Road School.
It's this monster building, very
Isn't
long,
it?
monster building, some way off from St George's Road.
I had a job finding it, but I did eventually. I've just put materials match. It is a big place, it's a 4-bed going to 5-bed. It's isolated, there's plenty of parking. Really see much on
It's
this.
just really changing what looks like one room, which is part of the existing long length. I mean, all they seem to do is putting a few windows in, closing the large door. So, yeah, and it's a long way from neighbours. So, yeah, I'll just have to support it.
Support?
Yeah.
Number 30, application for demolition of existing dwelling, Burning Road, 2 detached dwellings. It's myself and Louis Martin, isn't it? Burning Road. This is the one opposite,
Nursery.
nursery, isn't it?
It's like a red bungalow, unusual elevations and so.
Big garden.
Big garden. Big garden. Yes, a very tempting garden. Yeah. I felt it was a little bit bland. We got all the drawings of the relief and the topography of the garden, but not much information about it.
Yeah.
The houses.
It's only an outline permission, isn't
Yeah.
it? So
Yeah.
it's the whole call. we can pontificate.
And the present house has a flat roof.
I think it's a shame that another nice garden is going to go in there,
Yeah.
but that's not it.
I think the flat roofs are taken over from the zinc.
It's how that road has gone, hasn't it? You go on from Compose and keep going along, it's plot after plot after plot has turned into 2 modern 4 or 5 bed houses all getting out into the
I did make a note that I thought the climate change statement was inadequate.
Yes, I agree.
I think, you know, new properties, they should almost
No
by
solar
default have air
panels, no.
source heating and solar panels.
You would think that they would, applicable agents would have actually got their head round this, because it's not as if it was introduced yesterday,
The thing is, they don't have to do it, do they?
No.
but it helps their case.
Yeah, it does.
The new one's been built in New Mill, just above where the co-op and the wreck is. They've all got solar panels on them.
And that's a small local builder.
I think the climate, the introduction of the standard climate change statement has been a fair disaster really, because the competition is just incredibly perfunctory, so even done that, you know, just supporting documentation. It was better, obviously, when some took the initiative and actually gave us quite a lot of information. I think we're getting that through. I think we should
It's
complain.
noticeable.
I think we should complain about that.
A lot of them just say, don't they?
Yeah.
We don't have to do it.
We don't have to do this. We don't have to do in excess of whatever that needs to.
The other thing I questioned was the parking. There should be 3 spaces each for 4-bed houses, and a bit unclear as to whether there are 3 spaces.
It was going to be tight, was my thinking. But,
I mean, in principle, I don't think I have a problem with it, but I think those 2 issues
Yeah.
got to be raised: climate change statement and parking. And again, it'll come round again, won't it? We'll get to have a more detailed.
I support the concern of clarification.
Yeah. Does anyone have anything else to add to it? 31, Inside Road, Hunley. Single-story rear extension raised deck, formation of pitched roof over carriage. I looked at this, I'm sure. Yes, 31. The material, that's the existing materials, it actually removes a flat roof from the carriage.
Yes.
I thought it actually looked better, so
they obviously know your predilections.
I've put support.
Yes, I thought so too. Same reasons.
32 then, national carriage and gym office.
Oh, this is
an old chestnut.
this is one we've had before.
Round and round and round.
And it was a flat roof with the 7 with a sort of 7 roof on it.
Yeah, but the planners don't want that, they don't want that, no, that's in keeping with the no building.
Yeah.
My
And it was also
roof has got
approved
stone all over it.
So now they've put a pitched roof on it, and I'm not sure they've reduced the footprint much.
They've said they haven't, more or less, haven't they? They've argued back saying that
This is a listed building.
Yeah, yes, they've taken the porch off the listed building, or the proposed porch. But I think we didn't oppose it last time.
I don't know.
No, I don't think we did, I think we sort of felt it was in keeping with the
Yeah.
area and they mitigated it.
And
My suggestion would be to leave it to the officers.
Yeah.
The officers made suggestions, they've made changes, now the officers happy with the changes.
Yeah.
I mean, that's in keeping with our music, isn't it? The listed buildings.
it's efficient. Security of solar one, number one. Shoot us all up, I think.
So, where have we got to? 1, 2, 4, isn't it?
Yeah.
1, 2, 5, planning officer's decisions, the notes.
Noted.
1, 2, 6, neighbourhood planning and reviewing parish council outcomes. Okay. Good old Sid. I've been trying to find out where we are with having this thing ordered and delivered and put up. And getting nowhere fast. The engineer I spoke to, Robert Hardcastle, has now stopped returning his calls and his emails. I've tried procurement at Kirkland just to say, can you tell me if you've actually ordered this thing? And no one will answer the phone and no one replies to emails. So in desperation, I've been to Liz Kuzak, who's our initial contact on this, and she's not replied either. I have been to Colval, who are the supplier of this, and they've told me there's nothing on order.
Can we go to the
Which is
wall
a bit-
council? Can we go to
which
the
is a
wall
bit
council?
disappointing.
We're trying to wall council about it.
I haven't done.
We should. I think we should.
Next step.
It's a bit disappointing, isn't it?
Yes.
All this time, but the thing is, there's a 10-week lead time on it as well when we do get an order.
Personally, I think it's more than a bit disappointing. I think it's
I was
quite
choosing the word
disrespectful.
dedicated.
I'm just speaking for you, as it were. But I think
Carry on.
simply not to reply to that, I just think is absolutely outrageous.
When we're offering money. We're not asking them to do it.
I mean, in
I did
the,
say to Richards that, can we somehow order it? But he said, no, we can't.
I mean, the day of electronic communication, we not just have a standard format, thanks for your email, we're on it, or not, as the case may be. It's just appalling.
It frustrates the heck out of me. It's completely alien to me that
I mean,
people can't return the call, can't answer an email.
it just takes a minute to wrap that, a quick email.
You know, even if it said, I'm really busy, a fortnight before I get back, well,
Yeah.
you know where you are, don't you?
I think we should make the ward councillors aware of this because, you know, it's that they have been aware that this is what we're doing and it really is disappointing, isn't it?
Well, this is the ward councillors?
Yeah.
I Mo Crook actually took this under his wing to some extent, didn't he? I don't know whether he's followed it much actually, I'm not sure.
You might get out and start the loop, and maybe the military might get
Yeah,
some progress.
and I haven't done that, so that's fine. So that's the only progress, no progress. Traffic calming. Right, Rockall School, yes. Rockall School, yes. These were the kiddie cutouts, you remember this, that Charles Reeves was sort of pushing. Councillor Fenwick was going to speak to Ruckwell School about the possibility of having them there as a trial. Now, I don't know whether that's happened or not. Councillor Reeves, when I asked him, seemed to have gone quite cold on the idea and said, please are doing something different now. In the meantime, I don't know whether I should declare an interest here, but I'm a governor at Upperthorne School. Now, they would be quite keen on trialing these, because they do have a problem on Greenfield Road with parking on the zigzags.
Yeah.
I have found another supplier that's significantly cheaper. So I would suggest, in the absence of anything else happening, that I'd like to buy 6 of these things, give them to Upperthorne and let them try them.
That's a pilot, yeah.
Just a pilot. And with, obviously we need some feedback.
It's within budget as well, isn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, if that's proposal, I'll second that. I just think we should do something.
We just need to get on with it.
I've been around for long enough.
Have we not heard anything from Councillor Fenwick about this? Because he had proposed meeting with Brockholes. If he'd come back to us and said, oh, they want to do it, we could maybe bought some of them for them as well, but I don't know.
I mean, in actual fact, we could do both. So if you came back and said, yes, we're up for it, then we could still do it with them as well.
Would they do a deal with us as well if we did a bulk purchase, like if we bought a certain amount, or? No.
Not sure, I'll have to ask.
Yeah, it's worth exploring, isn't it? No, I'm happy for us to go ahead with it, with Upperthorne anyway.
I think we need 6 as a minimum, because each, I mean, unfortunately, Upperthorne has 2 of these zigzaggy, what do they call them? It's just 2 roads, but the one on Burnley is quite quiet.
Yeah. When you go up,
Because Burnley's closed. But it's a Greenfield Road one, I think, that's the problem.
well, it's the major road, isn't it?
And I think
as
you need
say,
3 on each side of the road to make it effective.
Has the school got room to store them in there?
Well, I did ask her that. I said, look, you know, it needs somebody to put them out, and fetch them back in, and it needs somewhere to store them. And she says, yes, I'm well aware of that.
Well, let's just do it.
So,
in my last little French jaunt, when I was driving through the Champagne district, I noticed that a number of pedestrian crossings adjacent to schools, they have permanent little statues of schoolkids fitted into the pavement.
Oh, they've got some of those in Sheffield.
So that you actually see these little people,
That's them every week.
and it just reminds you that this is a school.
I suppose this is the same concept.
Yeah, this is a cheaper way of doing it, and if it does work, we could, well, in the long term we might do something else like that, I don't know.
I must admit, the first time I saw them, I was like, oh, I said every week, you can hardly see it.
And now you run them down.
Modest Anthony Gordon on the streets.
Yes. Solid idea. True, really. You said with regards to the SIDS that the research suggested that after a while people get inured to them, don't they? You just fail to see them anymore. One of the things about having these is they could be moved around.
Yes.
In fact, thinking into the future, if it was successful at one school in the short period and you could find a different model, you could swap them between schools, so it's actually a different thing after a month or two.
I mean, it clearly is a problem. We've had complaints from neighbours about it, and we went on the next one of this at Holly High School. We were there the other day, and while we were there, they're all not parking, but dropping off kids on the zigzags. It's obviously quite a common problem. Okay, so we'll do that.
So, we've got a resolution for you to work with some school to buy 6 and pilot there. What would you like to do about the possible
Little stump in front
Brockholes
of
one that is
the
currently
in
in
blue.
progress or that will be?
So that you
Well,
it
if
was
Councillor
highlighted.
Fenwick comes back and says, yes, they're up, then we can do that as well.
Can we liaise with them and ask them to all of them both at the same time?
Yeah.
And it'd be a good pilot to do 2 different schools and then we've got different ideas rather than just getting one.
Well, the other alternative is we could buy 12 of these things anyway and then find another school. I suspect there'll be plenty
Yeah, I
Schools
think
take us up on it.
I know that New Mill infants have said things before, and that's just across the road from where I live, and they've mentioned things like they have two different drop-off points: the top road and the bottom road. The top road's got a lot of issues because you've got a lot of parking up there. The bottom road where I live on, there's not many other cars parked around there because people got driveways and things like that. So
I mean, some are worse than others, aren't they?
Yeah.
I was thinking about the Headless one, and
It's hardly a room
it's a
to
bit
put-
more out of the way, isn't it?
It's hardly any room to put them in there.
I was talking to one of my friends about it yesterday about never falling school and up there because it's quite narrow roads and quite difficult there, complicated. It's kind of things I talk to my friends about now. I've all got kids talking about parking.
I live that one every day. The question of delivery and where to, if we are ordering 12, potentially could deliver six straight to a school, but obviously we've got one school we're really not sure about. If we deliver them here, we're going to have to just ask permission so that we can temporarily store them.
How big would the delivery package be?
I mean, they're sort of this size each, aren't they?
A chair size, if you think.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So 12 of those. We couldn't store them in this room because it
Well, look,
is hired out.
I mean, they should
shall we
deliver.
attempt to get hold of Councillor Fenwick and see what the position is before we place any orders?
Yeah.
I mean, if the answer is he's not made any progress, I could try some of the other schools. See whether there's interest there.
I think ideally we want to be getting delivered directly to the school.
Yeah. I mean, in the meantime, I'll talk to the thing.
Oh, if not, like, if it's a case of them getting delivered here, we could arrange for someone to pick them up and take them to the school. Like, I could do that one day or something like that.
I mean, they could,
And you can do that up
well, I
before.
mean, they could deliver to my house. You know, I could split the load and
Is
take
anywhere
them
to
off.
park?
Just about. No flat roofs. Sir.
Okay. So in terms of the resolution, what are we doing?
That we
Buying
are
12.
going to progress a pilot with Upper Thong and potentially with 6 and another 6 for Brock Holes pending confirmation with Council.
Okay. Everyone okay with that? Okay. Second part of this was on the high school. A few of us visited the other day. Pat Collin, Councillor Morgan, Councillor Kirby, Councillor Greaves and myself. And some of the pupils there are concerned about road safety. Again. There isn't any crossing outside that school, which I was quite surprised at. I thought about it and I actually went up and had a look, so I was convinced there was one. There isn't. And there's been quite a few near misses. And I mean, this actually came from the pupils, which was quite interesting. They asked us if we'd go, and they gave us a presentation. It was really very good. And we toured around the school, and met the head and these 4 pupils. They put across a very strong case for something. A little bit unfocused on about where they went next. So we gave them some pointers about things we could do, like getting some more data about near misses and accidents, how many pupils there are, how many use crossing, etc. So they've gone away with a whole load of things to do. And cutting a long story short, they would like to come along and present, when they develop the case a bit more, present to the planning committee their argument, amongst others as well. We thought that was probably a good idea.
I drive up that road 3 times a week when I go to work, and responsibly I will add the speed bumps are there, so you can't really go that fast over them unless you want to knock your car off. So there is some parts where they are speed bumps and quite long bits. So you could easily put a crossing across one of them. And I don't know why they haven't done really. It's a bit of a no-brainer.
But there's actually a path comes up from Nearly.
Oh right.
And that's the obvious place for some sort of crossing.
Yeah. I think as well,
a lot of them come up from that way.
it's not the widest roads, and if you do get big vehicles coming down each way, I can understand that some kids might go on the pavement, they're walking 2 or 3 on the pavement, at the end of the pavement, they might be close to getting clipped. I can understand that could happen on
Well,
there.
actually, one of the girls said she'd been caught
Yeah.
by a wing mirror
Yeah.
on a lorry.
I totally get it, 'cause it's not the widest bit, especially as you get further up to the top. Once you get past the school, well, you're not going to get any people walking down that bit there, past where the station is. You're going to be walking up from the bottom or that. But I suppose if you're going to do it properly, you could have a crossing where the station is, and you could have one about midway down, like you said about Neely.
I mean, I applaud the initiative of the students, and it will be welcome to have a presentation. My concern is that they shouldn't have any false expectations, because I'm assuming that Kirklees would want to charge a lot for installing a pedestrian crossing.
So I did make that very point. I said, so Parish Council, we have no budget for this. We'll lend our support if you've got a good case, but ultimately it's Kirklees that's going to fund this. And they're the ones that they have to convince. They're well aware of that.
Right, thank you, Jeff.
So yes, I thought perhaps we could just send them the dates around next few meetings. Maybe they can tell us if they want to come along. Now I know that they only supposedly have like 3 minutes, but they need a bit more than that.
You can put them in as an agenda.
As a speaker at a meeting, can't you? You could organise it, yeah.
I mean, I can ask that on once. It'll be more than 3 minutes, I'm sure. Okay. Consultation on the Kirklees Council Statement of Community Involvement. This is the one that's a precursor, isn't it, to the review of the local plan. And I was thinking that we ought to respond to this consultation. I don't think we can not respond and then expect to be involved with the plan.
I was thinking,
Just going to say, I'm looking for volunteers, so.
No.
Thanks, Tom. First
what I was going to say is, this was something I was thinking I could mention to them people who came in earlier. Because if they are reviewing the local plan and might be reviewing some of these sites, if they are going to take any sites off, that one up there will be a no-brainer, one of them people were talking about earlier. But I didn't want to raise their hopes.
This will be a long way off, won't it?
Yeah, and it may not happen, so like, I didn't want to raise their hopes, but if they are reviewing it, it's good. Is it something that we could invite, would we invite speakers to speak to us about this?
So what we do know about, the initial part is the how we do the consultation. So the first step is to respond to this, to say yes, we absolutely want to be involved. What I've dug, had a bit of digging around. I found a few things from the last time we did it. Tommy may have been involved, but there was a response which I've got copies of. So I've got 2 copies of responses to Kirklees draft local plans from last time. So this is the Parish Council's response. One from January 2016 and one from January 2017. So there's obviously a year's worth of stuff gone on, and there are still some things we might have to with a year later.
Yeah.
And some of them are the same thing. So obviously, I will circulate these at some point, but it is really interesting. There are comments on the kind of character of the valley in terms of sort of socio-economic sort of industries, conservation, landscape, wildlife, all sorts. And then there are specific sites that are proposed as housing development sites that there are comments on as well. One of them is Homebridge site 6H626, which I think is the one that has been commented on here.
What, did we say we were in favour of it at the time?
No, there's 3 pages of comments on why there are problems with this particular site.
Yeah, I do remember we did this. It was quite a big consultation piece with residents and business users and other people like that in the area. a long time ago, but I think it could be the case that we do something similar again.
I think it won't be quite as big this time because this is a review rather than a new plan. But if we are to look at our nice map of the future, which is over there, you'll notice that a lot of the orange space, which is zoned for housing development, is now eaten up.
Yeah.
And they do have to have a kind of 5-year land supply on that.
Mm.
So it will be a case of identifying which other sites will be appropriate for
I
development.
do think it's key that we're involved with this, isn't it? Because, as we've experienced tonight, once it's made the local plan, you're going to find it difficult to overturn it, aren't you?
I think it might be good to maybe have a look at that document we used before and maybe reuse parts of it, because some of it I'm sure is still quite relevant. Some of the bits, some of the sites which you mentioned, like so they've already been built on, so the go's gone with them. But there could be others where what we said before was still relevant.
I think at this point we need to. Sorry.
So I was just going to, because we've leapt ahead, haven't we?
Yes.
Because I was going to go back to the statement of community involvement and say that I'm happy to have a look at it and like working with somebody else or two more people. Because we can, you know, we obviously won't do an online response, it'll be a response by email. So.
Would anyone?
We have to
assist.
well, we've got less than a month now, haven't we?
Yeah, we need to crack
We've
on
got,
it.
I don't think it'll be a huge task in all fairness.
No, it's not on that long, I mean.
This part will just be stating that you want to be
Yeah.
consulted, really.
Anyone else want to?
Don't have to be you, Andy.
It's me then. Yeah, probably me.
Even I.
We'll have a coffee somewhere then.
Yeah.
Councillors Wilson and Brackett to work on this one. And
We're not really a working party, are we?
No, I hesitate
don't
to
think
say.
schools do that.
I don't want to call it working class.
No, please not.
Two's a meeting, three's a
We
party.
don't know.
Coffee money.
when it comes to the full plan, there will be drafts going out, and I think that will probably be a full council issue, although the working party will be launched.
Yeah. We'll have to put somebody up with that one.
Yeah.
Engagement on pre-app advice. Am I jumping ahead?
No.
Okay. Engagement on pre-app advice. It says here that I've drafted a request, but I think really Jenna redrafted my my draft. I'd like to send this off to Kirklees and just ask them if they'll give us.
I don't understand why they don't let us know
Mm.
their thoughts. I find that rather strange.
It might be that we won't have any opposition whatsoever. We just you should have asked before, but.
I'm just trying not to make it prejudicial, like I mentioned earlier. If they tell us things and details things, we might not pick up on stuff or might not look at certain things.
Apparently some authorities do this, some don't. So I don't know quite where Kirklees lie on that. I think we've got to ask any
I do find it worrying that we had an application which we still haven't had the council's decision on for the filling in of the quarry up on Woodgate Road. And they clearly had pre-application advice that related to a further application down the line. And that kind of situation I think is very worrying because it suggests that there are certain backs being scratched somewhere that I don't feel comfortable with.
I agree, and I think they need to be open about it. Don't they?
Yeah.
I don't see that in anyone's interest not to. So if we're happy, we'll send that off. Item 127, Peak District National Park. There's much to say here, is there? No new planning applications.
There's decision notices and
Oh,
To
to
note.
note. New decision notice for
what's
Peak
to say
District.
about it.
Yeah.
If you remember last time, we've had notification from the Peak District that they were no longer going to be sending out decision notices as standard. I was tasked with finding a way forward. It's not the easiest thing to navigate. If it had been not sending out applications, it would have been much easier because those are easy to find. However, they post a monthly list of delegated decisions. So what you've got here is the October list. The November one wasn't out when I sent the papers yet. What they don't send is anything, any notification for anything that goes to committee. Now most things don't go to committee, most things are delegated to officers. So I can continue to put those in as because that's quite an easy fix. The other, so what is left is a little bit more tricky because, as we know, sometimes it's 2 or 3 years, sometimes it's a month, sometimes it's anything in between that, between a decision being made. I'm going to propose that we don't have them because there are so few that I can continue to put in the ones that decision notices that have been delegated because they're easy to find, but rather than trawl through every month maybe a day's worth of work for any that are still open, that if there are any that pop into your head that you've thought about, then you can go and look them up to see if they're still open.
Yeah, no, I agree with what Gemma said. The only thing that I would add was if we did have something, most of the things in the Peak Park are quite small and small changes and things like that. And it's only a small part of the parish, so we've got no applications this time, we might get one next time. So if there is one, and one of the councillors wants to pick it up themselves, they can go look for it themselves, or if it's something that we think is quite contentious and quite big, we can maybe ask Gemma just to keep an eye out for that one and see if it's on there. But like I said, we should mention that ourselves if we want to do that, or if not, don't bother.
I mean, I'm conscious of Gemma's time.
Yeah.
We could impose quite a large workload here for very little return.
Yeah.
I mean, there's never going to be any massive housing developments going on, so.
No, you wouldn't have thought so.
If it were.
Yeah, that's what I mean.
If them up.
You're not got the huntsman down, decided to replace it with a housing estate.
I'm just conscious of the time. Are we all right to
Sorry, yeah, you need to approve the time.
Yeah.
10 minutes or so?
Yeah, 10 to 15 minutes.
Okay.
Okay.
I think we go through this fairly quickly anyway. Item 128, ongoing highways campaigns. Right, there's nothing to report on Burnley, Carworth Road, or Netherthorn Yellow Lines, or South Lane. I don't think there's anything changed on any of those. Ramsden Road and Cheesegate now, etc. Kirklees are now proposing permanent TROs on these, which on the face of it is excellent news. The downside is they may next year before they actually complete them. And they're being very evasive on exactly which roads it includes and any sort of a timetable. It's difficult to know whether they're on track or not. They did say that the initial consultations will go out in November, and there's no one seen anything, and we're in December now. So you suspect it's already fallen behind. I shall keep plugging away and trying to get some sort of a timetable out of them, and then we can at least monitor where they are. On the face of it, fairly positive though. They seem to have accepted that something needs to be done. Unmade roads, green lanes and byways. Don't think we're any updates, have we?
The only ones that we've had are the ones that have come through that you just described.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, item 130, plan.
There is a letter to approve the complaint to highways and
Okay.
HVPC CEO. So last time around, you asked me to draft.
Oh, approve a draft letter to Kirklees, yes.
Okay, please, you
Yes.
happy with that or
Yes.
any amendments?
Yes.
Yes.
Yes, okay, thank you. guidance.
I don't understand why Steve Davey hasn't written. I will chase that one up.
Okay. Okay.
And just as a footnote, we're not too happy about Firth being taken off the risk register. Because there is still.
That was on BBC Breakfast, wasn't it?
It
Yeah,
was,
well,
I was
they
like,
did-
that's why I put it in, but I
They
was
did,
talking about
it was on all the airwaves, yes, they did ITV, BBC, local BBC breakfast.
Has it been taken off because we've got the conservation team, like conservation area group, who are looking into these things, who are making these things not happen, or is it just because some of the buildings which were, is it because basically because Bamford is getting fixed?
No,
Is that how we're operating?
it's not just, I think Firth has now got a vacancy rate of ground floor buildings of 6.6%, which is minuscule. Nationally it's 11, Yorkshire is 15, and we've been sort of stuck around 6.6, 6.7 now for the last 3 quarters. And the trend is downwards, so they've looked at the fact that people are putting money into investing in properties, and sort of gone, well, the community's taken it on themselves, regardless of Kirklees. There still needs to be a management plan. But I think they also need the publicity with historic England.
Okay. So no, the assistant clerk has provided some information updated in October on the Kirklees scheme of delegation.
So last time, we talked about that they had changed the scheme of delegation, so I've just basically lifted out the bits that changed, and it's around at what point a planning application is triggered to go to the committee rather than being delegated decisions to officers. Some of it's a little vague. One of them is significant volume of local opinion, but it doesn't say how many objections or anything like that.
I went through it, so I'm still not sure.
So it's, but there are some slightly more concrete triggers which are quite useful for us to know as well.
I suppose if they put a number on it, people would soon figure it out, wouldn't they? We only need 105.
Yeah, that's it. And actually, if it's, you know, if there's 100 houses in a village and all of them object, that's different to 100 houses in objecting to out of 1,000 houses, isn't it? But
That's just really useful, thank you.
Yes. 131 design code.
I'm doing hopefully the final draft on that, and when I finish my bit, I'm hoping to get someone to do artwork on it, because that's not my forte.
you're looking at me like that.
No, I'm not. No, Steve Davies' wife, hopefully. So probably it probably won't be in a position to come back. I noticed our next meeting's in January, but hopefully February.
Okay. 132 place standards. Nothing to report. The meeting's this Thursday, the next meeting. So I can feed back in January. I think it's mainly sort of updated on the print and what's happening at Sam's now. I'm not sure there's going to be too much new, but we'll see what happens on Thursday anyway. 133 committee budgets. I don't think there's anything changed here, is it?
No, there has been a finance management meeting since we first met around the budget. You'll probably be able to, those of you that are there, will probably be able to tell more, but I think it's looking like committees are getting what they asked for on budget largely, but it will go to full council first.
Yeah. But in terms of the budget for this year, it's as it.
Yeah, that's still the same.
Yeah.
You might not spend all of your for money.
With our budget for next year though, I wouldn't imagine, if we were spending £5,000 on a SID this year, I wouldn't imagine we'll be doing that again next year, will we? So the budget, that budget will be reduced down.
The way it's going and what's spent this year.
I suppose that's an earmarked reserve anyway, isn't it? So that's not in the budget. We've got the £3,000 budget line for the neighbourhood development plan.
Yes.
That might as well stay the same, so this committee's got, there's not a very much budget at all, really.
I mean, now, this committee doesn't have to change.
You can't really make many savings, can you, from this committee, so I think £3,000 leaving it in there, and if anything comes from the neighbourhood development plan or any project, we can use that from there. There's not much we really spend, is there?
Speaking of neighbourhood development plans, has anybody in this room not got one? You've all got one. Okay.
So much. I've got my dad's one to bring back. I was
Thank
around there the weekend, and I always forget it when I go around there. I will remember it.
Thank you.
Okay, last item 134, publicising the work of the Hull Valley Parish Council, Assistant Clerk to update on planned activity.
Yes, I don't think I have any sort of planning, publicising to do really, but if you've got anything that you want me to put out there.
To send this in.
Well, yeah, absolutely when that goes out there. The next stories that go out in print media will be January. I'm writing it next week, and I'm going to go with it on grants funding one and just a couple of spotlights on grants. Hopefully some of you have seen the Where's That Bench competition on social media.
Okay, yeah.
Excellent. That started last week. There'll be another one this Friday. Yeah, so grants, publicising grants at the moment is the main thing, and the awards that we are trying to get some nominations for, and then come February we will have a little final for the parish council that will be going out into which Martin's doing this at the moment, which will be a little bit about grants and a little bit about all the things that we do, just to better communicate to the residents about what we're all up to, particularly those that don't use the internet quite so much.
Okay. Thank you very
But
much.
always welcome stories, and if anybody wants to do a think piece or a blog,
Thank you everybody. Not all around too much,
If we did it that first item on the agenda, we would have been done. Come off, think what was going on, isn't it?
Gemma, I'll email you those notes tomorrow.
thank you very much, and what I'll add to them, working with them a little bit, but
See you
then
later.
I'll sort of consult between the three of us to
Yeah, that was sweet. He was quite content.
I'm generally trying to fill them out within 2 days, so probably
What after?
quick.
Don't rush on my account.
I just need to get them off the please, that's all.
Yes.
The rest of the committee wanted to go in a certain direction, everyone agreed on it, but he didn't do.
But why didn't you suggest some alternative? Why did you say a code?
I don't know, my car said it was 6 degrees.
Stop the
when I
video.
came down.
Don't catch
Possibly.
I
I wouldn't bank on it.